Richard Ramirez, known infamously as the Night Stalker, was an American serial killer, rapist, and burglar who terrorized Southern California between 1984 and 1985. His crimes were characterized by their brutal and random nature, with victims spanning a wide range of ages, races, and socio-economic statuses. This unpredictability, coupled with the sheer savagery of his attacks, has cemented Ramirez's place in the annals of criminal history as one of America's most terrifying figures. Early life and background. Born Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas, Richard Ramirez had a deeply troubled upbringing. His father, Julian, was a former police officer who later worked on the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway. Julian was often described as a violent man, with a quick temper, frequently taking out his frustrations on his children. Richard, the youngest of five, bore the brunt of this abusive environment. Ramirez's early exposure to violence was compounded by his relationship with his cousin Miguel Mike Ramirez. Mike was a decorated Green Beret combat veteran who served in the Vietnam War. He would recount his wartime experiences to Richard, sharing gruesome stories and showing photographs of Vietnamese women he had allegedly raped, tortured, and killed. In 1973, when Richard was just 13, he witnessed Mike shoot and kill his wife, Jessie, during a domestic argument. This traumatic event further desensitized Ramirez to violence and left a lasting impact on his psyche. In addition to these violent influences, Ramirez suffered from multiple head injuries during his childhood, including being knocked unconscious by a swing at age 5 and later experiencing epileptic seizures. These injuries, combined with his troubled home life, created a perfect storm for the development of antisocial and violent tendencies. By his adolescence, Ramirez had begun experimenting with drugs, including marijuana, LSD, and cocaine. He dropped out of Jefferson High School in the 9th grade and started dabbling in petty crimes, which soon escalated to more serious offenses. His fascination with Satanism and the occult also began to take root during this period, influenced by Anton LaVey's The Satanic Bible. These elements would later become hallmarks of his criminal activities. The crime spree begins. Ramirez's reign of terror began in earnest in 1984. On June 28, he committed his first known murder, that of 79-year-old Jenny Vinco, in her Los Angeles apartment. Vinco was found brutally stabbed to death, with her throat slashed so deeply that she was nearly decapitated. This initial murder set the tone for the viciousness that would characterize his subsequent crimes. Over the next year, Ramirez embarked on a series of home invasions, sexual assaults, and murders that would leave Southern California in a state of fear and panic. His method of operation was terrifyingly random, with no clear pattern to his choice of victims. This lack of predictability made him extremely difficult to track. Ramirez typically entered homes through unlocked doors or windows, often in the middle of the night, earning him the moniker the Night Stalker. Once inside, he would subject his victims to unspeakable horrors, often binding, raping, and torturing them before finally killing them. His weapons of choice varied and included firearms, knives, tire irons, and hammers. In several cases, he also engaged in acts of mutilation, further underscoring the sadistic nature of his crimes. One of the most chilling aspects of Ramirez's attacks was his use of satanic symbols and rituals. He would leave pentagrams and other occult markings at crime scenes, and sometimes force his victims to swear to Satan during the assaults. This association with Satanism not only added an element of psychological terror to his crimes, but also played into the growing satanic panic of the 1980s, fueling widespread fear and paranoia. Notable attacks. Throughout his crime spree, Ramirez committed numerous heinous acts, each contributing to his notorious reputation. Some of the most notable attacks include: March 17, 1985, Ramirez attacked Maria Anandith, who managed to escape, and later that same night, he fatally shot her roommate, Dale Okasaki, in their Rosemead home. He also shot and killed 30-year-old Sileanne Veronica Wu while she was driving her car. March 27, 1985, he brutally murdered Vincent Zazara, 64, and his wife, Maxine, 44, in their Whittier home. Maxine's body was particularly mutilated, with Ramirez gouging out her eyes and placing them in a jewelry box, which he took with him. May 29, 1985, Ramirez attacked Mabel Marbell, 83, and her sister, Florence Nettie Lang, 81, in their Monrovia home. He bound, beat, and tortured them with an electrical cord before drawing a pentagram on Bell's body and writing "Jack the Knife" on the wall. Both women survived but were left in a comatose state. July 2, 1985, he attacked Mary Louise Cannon, 75, in her Arcadia home, beating her with a lamp and stabbing her repeatedly. July 7, 1985, Ramirez burglarized the home of Joyce Lucille Nelson, 61, in Monterey Park, beating her to death with his fists and kicking her head until she died. He then left a shoe print on her face. August 6, 1985, Ramirez shot and killed Christopher Peterson, 38, and his wife, Virginia, 27, in their Northridge home. Despite being shot in the face, Virginia survived and provided a crucial description of the attacker. August 8, 1985, he attacked Sakina Aboworth, 27, and her husband, Elias Aboworth, 31, in their Diamond Bar home. After shooting Elias in the head, he raped and assaulted Sakina, who survived the ordeal. Ramirez's ability to evade capture during his crime spree was partly due to his lack of a consistent modus operandi and the sheer randomness of his attacks. This unpredictability kept law enforcement agencies scrambling for clues and made it nearly impossible to anticipate his next move, capture and trial. The turning point in the case came on August 24, 1985, when Ramirez broke into the home of Bill Cairns, 30, and his fiancée, Inez Erickson, 29, in Mission Viejo. After shooting Cairns and raping Erickson, he forced her to swear to Satan that she would not scream during the assault. Erickson survived and provided a detailed description of her attacker, including a crucial piece of evidence: a partial license plate number of the car Ramirez had stolen and used that night. On August 30, 1985, Ramirez attempted to steal a car in Los Angeles, but was thwarted by bystanders who recognized him from media coverage. He fled on foot and attempted to carjack several vehicles, but was ultimately subdued by a group of civilians in East Los Angeles. The crowd held him until police arrived and took him into custody. Ramirez's trial began on July 22, 1988, and was one of the most publicized criminal cases in American history. The courtroom was often packed with spectators, and the proceedings were marked by bizarre and dramatic moments. Ramirez frequently displayed a defiant and unrepentant demeanor, making satanic gestures and shouting "Hail Satan" during his appearances. He showed no remorse for his actions and often taunted the victims' families. The prosecution, led by Deputy District Attorney Phil Halpin, presented overwhelming evidence against Ramirez, including fingerprint evidence, ballistics, and witness testimonies. The defense, led by attorney Daniel N. Andith, attempted to argue that Ramirez was a victim of a traumatic childhood and brain injuries, which impaired his ability to distinguish right from wrong. On September 20, 1989, after more than a year of trial and over 1,100 exhibits of evidence, the jury found Richard Ramirez guilty on 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 counts of sexual assault, and 14 counts of burglary. He was sentenced to death on November 7, 1989, and sent to California's death row at San Quentin State Prison. Legacy and impact. Richard Ramirez's reign of terror left an indelible mark on Southern California and the broader American public. His crimes exposed vulnerabilities in the safety and security of home environments, prompting many people to adopt stricter security measures and invest in home alarm systems. The randomness and brutality of his attacks shattered the sense of safety and normalcy in communities, leading to widespread fear and anxiety. The Night Stalker case also had a significant impact on law enforcement practices and forensic investigation techniques. It highlighted the importance of interagency cooperation and the need for advanced forensic technologies, such as DNA profiling, which was still in its infancy at the time. The case underscored the critical role of community involvement in crime prevention and resolution, as Ramirez's capture was ultimately facilitated by vigilant and courageous civilians. Ramirez remained on death row for nearly 24 years, during which time he continued to attract media attention and a morbid fascination from the public. He died on June 7, 2013, from complications related to B-cell lymphoma, a form of blood cancer. The Night Stalker case remains one of the most infamous in American criminal history, serving as a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. Ramirez's crimes continue to be the subject of books, documentaries, and television shows, ensuring that the legacy of his terror lives on in the collective memory. In the end,